Here we go. Episode 4 of the Reaction Committee. We're getting down to it. This is the last week of the regular season, other than, I guess, the Army-Navy game. I always forget about that one. But week 13, rivalry week. Got some big games, implications on the line, specifically Michigan, Ohio State at 2-3. We'll get into that game a little more. Fellas, how we doing? We doing all right?
I mean, I'm ready to talk about the slate this weekend. Ready to talk about the standings that just dropped. I feel like it was a big weekend of college football. That was a really big weekend. Yeah, and we're waiting on the big upset, and it's got to be coming eventually. So let's predict it. Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. I mean, I think even if Ohio State beats Michigan, you can't really call that an upset. I wouldn't say.
No.
So, yeah, no. I think we're still waiting for that first true upset. A lot of good teams with either no losses or one really good loss at the top of the rankings, I would say. Then a little bit of
I feel like this is the most 1 through 8. This is the most like anybody can get in 1 through 8 that we've seen.
Agreed.
Maybe ever. I don't really remember 2014-15. I couldn't tell you the exact rankings 1 through 8 going into the pretty much the final regular season week. But I feel like it's usually maybe there's a couple teams bouncing around at 5 or 6. I mean, even if you look at last year, LSU was sitting there at 5 going into the final week of the regular season. They had 2 losses. We're sitting at actually 1 through 8. You could even say 10 with Louisville if you wanted to, teams that could actually get in. And so these next 2 weeks are going to be, I would guess, since this college football season hasn't been that wild, it's just been super fun and super competitive. 2 of the more wild weeks of college football that we could see, that we have seen coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get the top 25 up there right away. It just released we're talking about an hour ago at this point. Liberty makes their way into the top 25. They are undefeated still. The Flames getting the respect that we believe JMU deserved as well, but JMU obviously loses to App State at home. They had College Game Day there. PFT hilarious on the call as a College Game Day. But yeah, they lose. But Liberty still continues to win. They are at 25 going against El Paso. 17-point favorite there. But going on from there, Clemson creeps in. Dabo Swinney with all his drip. They got that in-state game against USC. They are a 7-point favorite in Columbia, South Carolina.
Rubbish.
Yeah, rubbish.
Rubbish.
Yeah, Tulane is that team that we thought would be the non-Power 5 to kind of make their way possibly to. I mean, if they keep winning, they got UTSA this weekend. It's a home game against Jeff Traylor's Roadrunners. Interviewed officially for that A&M job we touched on a little bit with Jimbo Fisher being gone from A&M. Texas guy getting that interview. He didn't really want to talk about it much. I don't know if you guys saw his comments. They got big game ahead of them, and so that's what he's focused on, quote unquote. North Carolina State, there you go. Okay, they're in it. They play against North Carolina. They're not favored, even though it's a home game against North Carolina. But they creep in. Tennessee there taking on Vandy, 27-point favorite. Snooze fest, if you ask me. Oklahoma State. Excuse me. Oklahoma State taking on BYU in Stillwater. Now this is an important one. They still have life big time for the Big 12 championship. They win, they're in, fellas. They win.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I did not know that. They
win.
Don't even need like an Oklahoma loss?
No, because they have the head-on against Oklahoma.
Wow, okay.
The only Big 12 loss is to UCF. They got smoked 2 weeks ago in Orlando. But if they win, they're in. And so same with Texas. Both, if they win, they're in. But if they lose and Oklahoma wins, OU taking on, I'm losing it here. Oklahoma is taking on TCU at home. If Oklahoma wins and OSU loses, then Oklahoma gets in for that rematch of Red River in Jerry World for the Big 12 championship. Kansas State, they beat Kansas, and they continue to make their way up. They got Iowa State this weekend, who is officially eliminated from Big 12 championship contentions after losing at home in Ames to Texas. Notre Dame at Stanford, 26-point favorite there. They're kind of just sitting there hoping maybe make a big, New Year's Six bowl. Sure. Iowa. Oh, man, Iowa. Good Lord, boys. They are down to 26.5. They continue to hit the under, and they also continue to bring it down. This one's in Lincoln, 26.5. Again, you probably should take the under here. Iowa is there at 17. Oregon State takes the loss, close game against Washington. They got to go to Eugene this weekend, 13.5-point dog. Arizona. Oh, man, they are a fun team. They really are actually playing for, again, another New Year's Six bowl. Really impressive what Jed Fish is doing. And not out
Pac-12.
of contention. Yes, not out of contention, fellas, for that Pac-12 championship game. If Oregon loses to Oregon State and Eugene, and they beat Arizona State, they will be playing Washington in that Pac-12 championship.
Makes no sense. Makes no sense. But Wildcats everywhere, baby.
Wildcats
Keep
everywhere.
winning. Wildcats everywhere.
Wildcats everywhere. LSU, the Fighting Tigers, they run it up against, I think, Georgia State, right, Dak?
Yep, Georgia State smoked them, cooked them. Defense still bad.
Right, getting that Jalen Daniels Heisman campaign up, keeping him in the whole game, and he balls out. I think he had 6 touchdowns, went crazy. 8?
Yeah, he had 8 touchdowns.
Rushing, I believe, then.
So, yeah, 6 passing, 2 rushing. He said he wanted to break Joey B's record, which was 8, so he tied it. But props to him, whatever.
That's absurd.
They take on the coachless A&M at home in Baton Rouge. Oklahoma, touched on them a little bit. They win, not necessarily in, but they will be. Are they have one loss? Am I wrong? They only have one loss.
Oklahoma, they have 2.
Oklahoma lost.
Who was the second one too? I can't remember.
So they lost to.
They lost to Kansas.
Oh shoot! Yeah, they lost to Kansas. Who was their other? They lost to Oklahoma State, right?
Oklahoma State.
Yeah, you're right. You're
yeah,
right.
Foolish.
That's why it's
Thank you, Dak. I don't know. This
And-
just escaped my mind. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hence why they have to have a loss from Oklahoma State to get their second loss in the Big 12. Ole Miss -10 against Mississippi State. That's in Stark Vegas. They are there at 12. Penn State going to Ford Field. Detroit, stand up for the MSU Penn State game. 21-point favorite. Good Lord, I'm not watching that one on Peacock. No thanks. Louisville taking on Kentucky, little in-state battle there. -7 against them. They, like you mentioned, are still in contention technically for the playoffs. Florida State, obviously, we'll touch on them with Travis Hunter being out. They have some life, only one loss. They beat Miami, and they take on Kentucky, and they already booked their ticket to an ACC championship game to take on Florida State. Mizzou stays at 9, although losing. Oh, no, they beat Florida at home, close game. I believe that was a 2-point game. We bet on it. Dakota and I sweated that one out. Mizzou takes care of business against Florida at home. Alabama has the Iron Bowl this weekend. That's in Auburn. I was excited. I think we mentioned, guys, I was excited. I thought maybe Auburn would put up a fight. They just lost to New Mexico.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're putting up a fight. That's embarrassing.
They're getting cooked. They're getting cooked.
Hey, add them to the cooked list. Add them to the cooked list.
Yeah. Any other year, maybe, but after that, dude.
Caleb Williams and the Auburn Tigers on the cooked list.
Yeah. Texas taking on Texas Tech. Probably the last time that game is going to be happening until they decide to do, out of conference battle with Texas going to the SEC. They come here to Austin. They are a 13-point favorite. Texas is Longhorns. They need to essentially, they win, they're in. If they lose, and there's a weird way that they could be out of it, if they lose and then Kansas State, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State all win, then they're out, and one of those 3 are in. It's very, very weird and shaky. That the math there doesn't make too much sense, but Kansas State hanging on by a thread technically is still alive there at 19 to get in the Big 12 championship. Texas would need to lose. Oregon had a good showing. They take on in-state rival there, Oregon State. That's in Autzen. Eugene will be tough for Oregon State to get out of that one, but they're a 13.5-point favorite, as we just saw there. Florida State, an undefeated team falls down a spot, and they have to go to the Swamp. And we've seen Florida play Dak live. That's not a bad team. They have their backup QB in now, but that'll be a tough game with them without Travis Hunter, who snapped his leg. Hate to say it, but it was a tough scene to see. He's out of college football, probably going to the draft. Washington taking on Wazoo at home in Seattle, 16.5-point favorite. They move up to that 4th spot, and punch their ticket to a Pac-12 championship. The only other two teams remaining, as I mentioned, Oregon and Zona, to get into that. Big Blue in the game in Ann Arbor. Ohio State there right at 2, so we'll just leave it at that. 3.5. Michigan not going to have Jim Harbaugh on the sideline for a third game in a row. They limp out of College Park, Maryland, and get a touchdown. I believe it was a touchdown. They won by a touchdown, right, fellas? I think.
I think it was
Did they win by?
I think it was like 31-24 or something like that. Maybe 29.
It was a touchdown.
A touchdown. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Georgia takes on in-state, the in-state battle of them and Georgia Tech. They go down to Atlanta to take on the Yellow Jackets. They are there punching their ticket to the SEC championship, taking on most likely, I think it's actually locked up, Alabama. So, yeah, I mean, that we got big slate. I mean, the big games obviously is the game, Michigan, Ohio State. Going to be back home for that. Stu and I will touch on that. We'll have some throughout the show, special guests, some Michigan representatives talking with us today. A few of them actually. So big game there. Obviously, a lot rides on that. But you know, I mean, what do we think, fellas? Last week, I mean, the two games that stand out to me were Washington State, Oregon State. That was the 5 versus, I believe, Oregon State.
Washington, Oregon State. Yeah. They were 12, I think. 11 or 12.
I think they were 11 at the time.
Yeah.
And Washington gets out of Oregon State there in that night rainy game, 22-20, and Georgia smokes another ranked game. Tennessee, we knew that one was coming. They won 38-10. But yeah, I mean, anything worth noting on here from last week, fellas?
Nothing big noting on. I'll make a miniature note. Clearly, so this year college football, it's one of the best years I think we've seen of college football in terms of that 1 through 10. You could even argue 1 through 15 is pretty solid. Those are all teams that if we were doing the 12-team playoff this year, they'd all be competitive. Penn State aside, I'll be honest, not them, but anybody else 1 through 15, I give them a little bit of a shot. The bottom half of college football, though, is not very good. Arizona's awesome. I love Arizona. I was sitting there with what they've done at 17 is crazy. You touched on it, though. NC State at 22. The committee's running out of ideas. I don't even know what got them in there. I have no idea. I think they beat Georgia Tech, and they beat some other, not to be disrespectful, garbage team. So I don't know what got them in there. They're still.
Did they beat Notre Dame? They beat Notre Dame too, I think, right?
NC State lost to Notre Dame this year.
They lost to Notre Dame? Wow.
They might have beat Notre Dame. I could be off, but that would have been a while ago. I don't think it was recent, right?
It would have been early beginning of the season. I think they were Notre Dame's 4th game, I think.
But throwing Clemson in there with 4 losses, Tennessee any other year, them sitting at 20 is crazy. They after this last weekend, they would have been bounced out. So only thing I got to say, the playoff committee, props to them, but they're scraping the barrel with that like 18 through 25. But the top 10 is super competitive. It's awesome. I'm excited for this week. I got some thoughts on the top 4. I mean, we all got thoughts on top 4 through 8 even. And so we'll get into that. But the bottom half of college football is looking a tiny bit grim, a little grim right now. Not great.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, we had the one finally a little bit of change again in the top 4 with Florida State going behind Washington. Obviously, I'm guessing the Jordan Travis injury that's got to play a factor. Kind of reminiscent. I heard someone talking about it's kind of similar to the Ohio State 2014 year when JT Barrett went down.
JT Barrett.
Maybe the committee. I think the committee, they dropped Ohio State, and then the Big Ten championship game, they waited to see how Cardell Jones looked, and then that's when they decided to bring him back into the top 4. So maybe a little bit of a similar situation there, depending on how this QB looks for Florida State replacing Jordan Travis. I can't remember his name. Do you boys know his name?
Someone with an M.
It's Roadmaker.
Roadmaker.
So I'll ask you guys this. I thought
gotta be a gritty guy.
We touched on it, I think, a little bit last week. Eventually, you have to start giving teams credit for like the ranked wins that they have later in the year. Do you think that they would have had Washington jump Florida State this week if it wasn't for the Travis or the Jordan Travis injury? Maybe not. I think they still.
I don't understand that. Like people have been talking about. I don't understand that argument. It's like it's not their fault. He snapped his leg. Like if they win out, they're going to the playoffs. Like they shouldn't not get discredit because a star quarterback is out. Like that's not their fault that they're undefeated. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand this argument at all.
I do a little bit. I do.
It's not sexy, but it's like they're undefeated.
They're undefeated, but it's a totally different team. Without Jordan Travis and with Roadmaker in there, it's a way different team. Granted, you talked about Ohio State. That team was extremely talented. Like, you still had Ezekiel Elliott, you still had Mike Thomas, you still had Marshawn Lattimore. We don't know what these Florida State players are going to end up being in the NFL. That's still a super talented Florida State team. But without Jordan Travis, that's a huge difference maker. So that's where I do understand it. I think Washington jumps them regardless, just because they had an awesome win on the road in the strength of schedule. I totally agree, but they hadn't really moved Florida State since then. I'm just curious if you guys think that factored in at all. I think it factored in maybe a tiny bit.
Yeah,
a tiny bit, but it would have happened.
I'm
regardless.
on the other side of the table for that one.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Why that would make sense.
I don't think it's right, what they I don't think it should be a factor, but I'm just saying I think for them it was.
My point here is, if Florida State wins out and they beat Florida on the road and they beat Louisville in the ACC championship, you can't take them out, because no matter what, they'll be one of, at best, 4 of the teams that are undefeated. And that's at best, because Michigan and Ohio State have to play each other, so someone's losing. Even if Georgia wins out and even if Washington wins out, okay, and then Ohio State or Michigan, pick your poison there. They're going to get in even with a backup quarterback.
I think we'll touch on this later when we get to the top 8. So I feel like I semi disagree. I think you're right. That's what they'll do for sure. But I semi disagree with.
They're in.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll be in for sure.
Undefeated.
I know.
They beat your LSU Tigers. They beat a ranked opponent who's number 10. They go to Florida and win an SEC game.
I agree. We'll get into it. I feel like more when we get into the top 8. But I think that's what the committee will do. If they go undefeated, they're 100% going to be in.
Yeah.
But I think there are some scenarios there that are still in play where you're sitting there and you're looking at it where I know TCU didn't go undefeated last year, but it's one of those things where it's like, do you just put a team in there at 4 or even at 3 just because they're undefeated and you or like last year, Big 12 champion, you have to put them in there? Or do you make the decision and it's like, we have a couple of one-loss teams here who at this point in time, because of no Jordan Travis, are better and would beat Florida State head on. I don't think they would do that, but I think that's a discussion that would. Jordan Travis, I think, factors into the at least discussion at the quote unquote table that they have.
Yeah, no.
Whenever
So I
they're
think,
picking the
you're
top
both
14.
right. You're both right here, but it's a little bit of both sides. I think. I mean, I think it obviously plays a factor into where they're ranked at this week, because it just happened.
Yes.
They haven't seen Jordan Travis yet, or who the replacement to Jordan Travis is yet, and how he plays with the team. And obviously, if he sucks, they're probably not going to win. I mean, they're playing Florida, who they're not a great team. It's still a tough game. You're playing in games.
Yeah.
And then also after that, you're playing Louisville, who they already show they like. They're a top 10 team, 1 loss on the season. That's a good team. If you find a way to beat that team with this backup QB and you go undefeated, you're in. I just don't see how you're not in. But I do think you're right, Dak, that part of the reason they moved them back this week, it has to be partly the injury, because they've had them above.
I think it's them win. I think it's Washington winning, and they have a harder strength of schedule.
I agree.
Mostly. I think if Travis was in or not, they're still going to go to 4.
No, that's true. I think it's a little bit of combo of both. I mean, I'm not saying they weighed it huge, but I think it was definitely at least mentioned, the fact that he got injured.
The committee doesn't want to put Florida State in if they don't have to. I just think that if the hand is forced and they are 13-0, it's like, how are you going to leave them out? Because the likelihood that Georgia, I mean, you could throw in I think the only exception would maybe be an Alabama undefeated.
That's what I'm saying.
But that would probably be the only one. I'd take an undefeated Florida State, and I like Texas's resume, but I would take them if they're undefeated, ACC champ, winning a game against LSU. It's not sexy, and the committee does not want to back up quarterback in, but it's you can't discredit them for going undefeated because the quarterback.
I agree, and I think I actually don't think it factored in as much this week. I also think it's strength of schedule, and that was something that I even brought up last week, where eventually you have to. When ranked teams start beating higher ranked teams, you have to start moving it around, and they finally did it. I think when it comes down to it at the end of the year, if you have a Bama team that just beat Georgia, who we know is good, and then you have even an Oregon or a Washington State who also won, maybe one of those teams has 1 loss, and then you have Michigan or Ohio State, that's where it could get a little bit finicky. Undefeated Florida State, Texas hasn't done enough. It'd be awesome to see Texas in there, but they still haven't done enough. So undefeated Florida State gets in. But when you start, I think the main thing is when you start getting to a Bama win and a Georgia loss, do you put in a one-loss Georgia team potentially over like a Florida State team like
That's
that? I think that's where it gets a little
dicey.
muddy. Yeah, because then you can talk about strength of schedule too, and Florida State strength of schedule also isn't there.
It's going to be interesting, and I mean, I think it's going to be also kind of interesting to see how the committee plays it as it gets down to the stretch here, because I feel like they got to feel like they got a little bit of leeway with what they decide with the top 4 this year. I mean, it's going to be a tough decision, and it's moving to 12 next year. So it's like, even if someone gets likely screwed over, it's like, all right, well, next year you'll be in if it's the case.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we got 3 teams to touch before we get into like the top 10 games. Do we want to get going on those?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's do it.
All right, let's rip them. So the first one is Liberty. And Dak, you were saying like your point on JMU before we hopped on recording here. Why don't you start off with them, and you can talk a little bit about that?
Oh, no, I mean, I just think it sucks because obviously JMU lost this last weekend to Appalachian State. I think it went 1 overtime or 2 overtime. That's a tough loss. Otherwise, maybe they're 25, but I don't even know if they would have put them 25 this week, because clearly they weren't, like we said, they've been scraping the barrel, and they've been scraping the barrel for a minute. They should have been, if Liberty's sitting there at 25, Liberty's undefeated. That's awesome. And this is kind of they finally threw Clemson in there. They finally threw NC State in there. So you had some losses where you could move people up. JMU should have just been ranked last week. And it's a moot point. It doesn't really matter. I'm happy that Liberty's there at 25, but clearly I feel like, at least from my perspective, clearly the no bowl game for JMU plays a factor, and it shows that it shows that the committee is kind of ranking people based on what they think maybe some bowl games will be. And if you're not going to a bowl game, why do we rank you?
Well, and I think also the fact that, just to add on to that, I mean, specifically, I know the AP poll had them ranked, right? And I think they were up to like 18th actually before this game.
Yeah.
So I think the playoff committee kind of goes, whatever, like they're not getting into the playoffs. They legitimately can't. On Wednesday, they came out and they got the axe officially. I think it was, like we said, we touched it, Jacksonville State and somebody else who they all appealed to try to get in because they're new teams into Division I football. And the NCAA said, no, you have the 2-year, ban or whatever they want to call it, where you have to wait to get in to any bowl contention. So I assume it's that, because the AP poll is still putting them at the rank. And so the playoff committee is like, well, you have no shot at the playoffs. So that's what I would assume, which is still bowl. Like, it's bullshit if you ask me, but whatever. I would assume it's that.
No, for sure. I mean, I agree with both you boys. I mean, if they can't even be eligible for a bowl game, why even like put them in the conversation or throw them in the top 25? So that's got to be the reason they weren't in there. I mean, at Liberty, I mean, slap in the face to JMU, but deserved for Liberty. So good for them.
There you go, undefeated.
Yeah. And it's not like the committee really cares. Nobody's going to remember in a year or two. No. It's just for people like us to talk about. That's all it means nothing. No offense to those teams, but it doesn't really matter.
They got game day on the deal. Like, it was a big deal.
They got game day, yeah. But should we touch on that? PFT was awesome. Yeah. PFT was a 10 out of 10. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. Lee Corso. So Lee Corso has been confused for about 2.5 years. No disrespect to him. We all he's an icon for us. Like, he's a childhood idol.
I'm about to say more than 2.5. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. He's been
no disrespect to Lee. We love him.
Yeah. We love Lee. But I have never seen a man so confused on television. He legit looked to his left and he goes, "What did you say there?" he had no clue. He had no clue. But it was awesome. Great television, man. As good as you can do game day.
Better game days.
Kept Pat McAfee quiet. Kept him a little chilled down.
Yeah,
way better than Big Noon kickoff with Urban Meyer and the gang, right?
Oh
yeah, all set. So touched on this a little bit. A little Big Ten matchup. Is Iowa did clinch today, the West. I mean, not today. Last week, the West, right, Stu?
I think so, yeah. I think they did.
I think they did. Iowa wins the West again. And again, this under is 26.5. Poor Nebraska. They're cursed. I mean, they need to win this game. Yeah. They are favorites at home in Lincoln to get to a bowl game. They're at 5-6 right now. Iowa coming in as a 2.5-point dog to Nebraska. Iowa's going to play either Michigan or Ohio State. It's just going to be that. And, I don't think that Iowa can beat Michigan or Ohio State. Obviously, if they were to do that, I believe both Michigan and Ohio State would be out. whoever play that game of the playoffs. I think you got to be perfect in the Big Ten. The way that this, as we've touched on this year, I mean, there is technically 9 teams still alive going into the last week of college football. Louisville is a very, very big stretch, especially now with Travis Jordan out.
Jordan Travis.
Travis Hunter, Jordan Travis.
I know. You said Travis Hunter earlier, but I was like, let him cook.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan Travis out, so that'll be tough for them. I think that's where the committee would come into play and be like, you beat a team without a really good quarterback in that kind of setting. But yeah, I want Nebraska to win. I got a lot of Skurs fans out there that I'm friends with. You want to see them get to a bowl game. What'd you say, Stu, with Matt Rule and his mocks? What'd you call
Smocks.
Good God, yeah, the smocks.
That's a classic large man turning into a huge man outfit. Yeah, you have to rock the smock.
Yeah.
I love a good smock, coach, man. Good smock.
He needs. I think he's doing all right. I mean, it's pretty hard to get that team out of the hole they were in. So, moving on to the next game here.
I just want to say one thing too.
Yeah, no, hit it.
I was getting to the point, we talk about it a lot, sicko football, where like only the true fans of college football can keep watching these 29.5, 28.5 point spreads. That's not even sicko football anymore. That's unwatchable. I said it. Iowa, until they get an offense, they shouldn't be in the FBS anymore. They shouldn't be at least in the Big Ten anymore. Put them to the Mountain West. Yes, put them to the Mountain West. Let them build their offense up. This is getting ridiculous. It was 3-2. It was a legit 3-2 for most of that game, for like a quarter and a half. It's disgusting, and they do not deserve to be 17. I'm done with it. I can't watch it anymore, man.
Dude,
it's nasty, but they're winning games, man. They're in the Big Ten championship.
Illinois, dude. God.
No, it's no one, but they're there. It's gonna be interesting to see how they look against USC next year in the new
6-6. 6-6. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're not gonna be good.
No. Arizona going against Arizona State. Shout out Arizona. Fun team this year. Jed Fish really turned that program around. Comes in, I think, in 2021. I think this is his 3rd season technically, and he's got them to probably going to a New Year's Six bowl, especially if they win this. Could be around that range. I mean, they'll probably be playing on New Year's if it isn't a New Year's Six bowl in one of those games. Impressive. I mean, impressive win. Utah, we kind of thought was cooked. We kind of like that. I don't know. Did someone take Zona? I don't know if anyone took Zona last week.
So I can't remember. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Yeah, we all like the Cats there. So shout out the Cats. I mean, fun team. One of the more fun teams in football as of right now. It's cool to see them at 15, and I think they're going to beat Arizona State for sure. Again, Arizona State not playing for a bowl game either. They're on suspension, I think, due to all the was it their last coach?
Was it Herm?
Yeah,
I think he did. I think he did get in trouble, and then he got fired walking off the field.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Week 6 last year. The AD pulled him over, and everybody was like, "Yo, this man legit just got fired on the field."
Bad,
not good.
But yeah, no. Like I said, I mean, the crazy thing is, if it's not impossible. I mean, it really isn't. If Oregon loses to Oregon State, who's a decent team, it's in Eugene, so it'll be tough. They could be playing for a Pac-12 championship. You win that against Washington, you're definitely going to a New Year's Six bowl game for sure. So, shout out Arizona.
Shout out. All right, we're in the top 10 now, boys.
Popping into the top 10, the battle of the bluegrass or whatever the hell they call it.
I think it is.
Really? Yeah, I just pull that out of my ass. I'd assume it's something.
I might be totally lying too. I just know
it's something with bluegrass.
Kentucky bluegrass. That's like a nice type of grass that every suburban. Yeah, every suburban family wants the Kentucky bluegrass.
So I saw this too. Stoops, they're kind of trying to push out Stoops there at Kentucky. Did you guys hear about this?
I did not see that. No.
Bob Stoops might not have a job at Kentucky, maybe because it's getting stale. If I'm Kentucky, I'd probably try to keep the guy because they're at least winning games. Yeah. I've seen that. I mean, there's a lot of hot seat guys that we're seeing. I'm sure somebody that we haven't mentioned before will probably get fired just to switch things up. I'd be kind of shocked if Kentucky gets rid of Stoops, but who knows? I just don't think Kentucky. I mean, what is your max potential there in the ICC? It's really about 8 wins. I hate to say it. It's just a tough place to play. So I don't know. I would be shocked. And then Louisville, if they lose this, they're obviously dead. I really do think they're dead. And to kind of go to your guys' point, even though I feel a little differently about, not that we feel that much different either, but like if the committee would go, if weird things shake out, I think the committee would go, okay, if they beat Florida State in the ACC championship, I think they'd go, well, they don't have their starting quarterback. Whereas if FSU wins out, it's like, well, they haven't lost a game. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's where that would come into play. And Louisville's not going to get your numbers up. Let's call it how it is. It's all about money and viewership. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have much on this game. It's a home game for Louisville. I expect them to win. 7-point spread. That's probably pretty accurate.
I mean, the Mark Stoops thing that's interesting because I saw something. There was like, it might have just been when Kentucky was randomly in the top 25, but I think it's in general. There's like 4 coaches right now. It's like Saban, Harbaugh, Kirby Smart, and that might be it. And then also Mark Stoops, who actually coached for their team in the 2010s, just in the 2010s. And it might just be from Power 5, but that's crazy. So clearly Kentucky has had Mark Stoops for a little bit. I'd be surprised if they pushed him out. Like you said, like 8 wins. That's what else are you getting in the SEC, especially with Oklahoma and Texas coming in? It's not getting easier. No. If anything, it's getting more difficult. So that's dumb. Louisville, I like Louisville. Like you said, they're done. They don't have enough wins they don't have enough high value wins with no Jordan Travis that could get them in. Even if let's say Jordan Travis is in there, they beat Florida State somehow. They're still probably not getting into the playoffs.
They need so much stuff to happen. They need everyone to lose. Everyone.
Yes. Yeah, right now Louisville is playing for a New Year's Six bowl. You go beat Kentucky. You go to the ACC championship game. You're in your New Year's Six. That's awesome. You did it one time with Teddy B, and you beat Florida, or you played Florida tight. You've done it with Lamar. That's kind of the pinnacle as of right now until things take another step up, if things take a step up. So go win your game, get to a New Year's Six. That's all you can do. And, I mean, it's a great season, especially season 1 for Jeff Ball.
Yeah,
that's
for
huge.
Sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to take – I think -7. I think 7 points is a lot for a rivalry game like that, especially that close proximity in state. So I'm going to say – I mean, I think Louisville is going to win. I'll probably say they win by like a field goal. I think it'll be a close
SEC opponent. You're playing SEC guys. It's just, I mean, that's just what it is.
But, yeah, no, I'm all on the cards to win that. All right. Then, next game.
Mizzou going to Fayetteville. Arkansas, referring to Fayetteville, not playing for a whole lot. That talk another hot seat. Sam Pittman.
No, he's back.
Sam Pittman's back.
Sam Pittman's tits. I hope I'm not lying here, but I'm pretty sure Sam Pittman's tits. They are returning next season in Arkansas, and I'm glad, dude. He's had some good years there. I'm glad they're keeping him around. Don't get rid of my guy. I love that man. It's hilarious, despite the fact that he let Polar Express be played at halftime during one of their games. That's
bizarre.
Bizarre. But hey, the kid said he was trying to get him motivated, getting him into not the holiday spirit, but the Arkansas spirit, despite the fact they were down 25 to an Auburn team that lost to New Mexico State. But keep Sam Pittman around, man. I like him. But don't take the spread. Take that Mizzou spread all day.
Yeah, I think it's a boring game. I think everyone knows what's going to happen here. I don't think there's too much to really even say about this one. This might be my pick, honestly, this week. Mizzou -7.5. I like it.
Yeah. Shout out Mizzou. They're going to be in New Year's Six bowl for sure. So they've been impressive this year. Alabama, the Iron Bowl. That's going to be in Auburn. We touched on it. Auburn got smoked. They didn't just lose. They got smoked by the Aggies of New Mexico State. Yikes. At home.
What was the score?
I don't know how.
Like 31-7?
Yeah. I don't know how that happened. But, sad days, bad days for Hugh Freeze, a team that is bowl eligible. I think they're at 6 wins, maybe.
They are, yeah.
That is a game you can't lose. You can't lose, and especially going into this game that had some implication of like you could be the spoiler here, and they still could be technically, but that'll be really tough for Auburn after that. That's an ego check. It's like we can't even beat. I don't even know if they're in a conference. Are they even in a conference? New
Mexico State. I
might be independent. I don't even know if they're in a conference anymore.
I have no idea, man.
No idea. I got no idea, but that's bad. That's a bad loss.
That's as grim as it gets. And like you said, Auburn, I feel like Auburn had gotten a little bit of momentum going.
They did.
Like
yeah,
a tiny.
they were winning games.
Yeah, they were 6-4. I still think Hugh Freeze, that is a crazy hire to me, and did not. Maybe not crazy, but
he's still getting them to a bowl game year one. I mean,
I guess.
I think you got a ceiling.
Like,
no, I think he's not going to get you kind of like Kentucky. You're not going to get more than 8 wins with Hugh Freeze.
Like, I was going to say, are you ever winning 10 games with Hugh Freeze? Maybe one time. And the expectation at Auburn is for sure higher than Hugh Freeze. Like, definitely.
For sure.
But they did have a little momentum coming, and I feel like that's one where if you're 7-4 going into that Bama game, it's at Auburn, right? Yeah.
It's at Auburn,
yes.
Yeah.
Fans get a little rowdy, and you're like, okay, we can actually play spoiler here. Losing to New Mexico, everyone just wants to see him lose. They don't even care. Like, nobody, like even their fans don't want to see Auburn win, despite how big the rivalry is. They're just done with it. No, that one's where like
that's outlandish. That's outlandish.
That's outlandish.
That's one that makes you. No, that one. You're smoking crack for saying that.
Okay, my bad.
That's Auburn. It's like it's their rivalry game.
Listen.
That's a lot.
I think there will. Sorry. Maybe not the large majority. There's a small portion of fans who, in the back of their head, they're like, "We hope they just lose 6-6." Hugh Freeze is gone. Hugh Freeze is gone. No, so Hugh Freeze is gone. I know it's year one, but so Hugh. I'm not doing it. All right, bad take.
Yeah, like you want to spoil. They have playoff. They have championship.
I know. But so what I'm trying to say, and this is a bad take, like I said, a loss. No, listen, time out. Let me explain. A loss to New Mexico State, where you don't just lose, you get smoked. That makes you hate your own team more than it makes it hate the team that you're playing, like Alabama, your biggest rival. It makes you hate the Auburn team and your head coach Hugh Freeze so much that you're almost hoping they just lose. Does that make sense?
No.
I see.
I really am not following whatsoever.
Well, they lost momentum. That's what I'm saying. They lost momentum, but they're not going to win.
I see the point you're trying to make, Dak, but
I'm done. Bad take, hot take.
I don't think they're that desperate right now. I don't think it's that.
No, they're not that desperate. They're not going to come in as juiced as what they would have come in, which is what I should have said.
That I can get behind. Yeah, it's like all right, shit, we're gonna get smoked by Bama.
Sure. Like, but hey, you know what? Look, 14.5 is a lot of points. I think if you're Auburn, you're happy if you cover. You play them tough, like it's a good game. So I think if you're an Auburn fan, that's what you're rooting for in this game.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Moving on. I don't.
All right. My bad.
Well, I mean, like,
cut it. We'll redo it.
One of the biggest rivalries in college football. You know this.
I
like,
know,
if they can spoil their season, it's like, well, hey, that's what they do.
You're the SEC guy too, man. I
followed your last.
All right. Okay. Can I? Let me rephrase.
Rebuttal.
Right.
Okay. I'll rebuttal. This is a tiny rebuttal. I'm a little Michael Scott-esque here. I'm not sure where I'm going to end up going with this, but they're going to come into this game. There'll be a little bit juice where they're like, you know what? We got nothing to lose. We're going to go take down Bama. That's what we're going to do. If they're down by a lot in the first quarter, then they're all going to give up and be like, I hope he just gets smoked.
Why would they want to get smoked?
All right, never mind. I think the spirits are dead.
I think you're right there. I think that's where we agree. Their spirits are dead. But I don't know why they would want to get embarrassed and pay money.
Not them as a team. Just like
all right. Let's move on to Texas.
We spent too much time there. We said my bad. All right, whatever.
All right. Texas taking on Texas Tech in Austin. Last home game of the year, obviously, for Texas. I mean, Texas Tech just got clinched a bowl game. They won their 6th game. I think they played UCF last week in Lubbock, and they won 13-point spread. I mean, if you are Texas Tech, this would be a great spot to spoil Texas' season. Yeah. You're out of the playoffs. You're cooked. They could knock them out completely from even the Big 12 championship, which would be hysterical if you're a Tech Raider, Red Raider fan. So I think they're going to come in with some juice. I don't love 13 points here. Texas won by 10 in Ames. A good win. It was slow in the beginning, and it was good to see Sarkisian. I've harped on it the most. He just does not seem to know what to do play calling wise in the second half, but in this game he did. They were only up.
Looked better, yeah.
Yeah, they looked better, and even without Jonathan Brooks out, Baxter led the way. There were some good catches from Xavier. There was some good catches from AD. The defense, Sweat is a monster. Would love him on the Detroit Lions. He's going to be an NFL guy.
Mm-hmm.
That man is a beast, a pro.
Like Jordan Davis, dude. That's what he reminds me of. He's that big.
Yeah, big 93 there. So, yeah, I mean, I like Texas by about 10 here. I'm feeling a little 10-point win for Texas. What about you guys?
I feel like so last week, go ahead, Stu. Take the reins there.
I agree with that. I would say I like around 10. 13's a lot. I think it's going to be around 10. And I think Texas, too, they've been hit with the injury bug harder than a lot of the teams in the top 10 this season, I would say. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Brooks, Quinn Ewers. I'm sure they've had other people. That's just the first two that come to mind. But, yeah, no, I think Texas, they got it. I mean, I think they're going to be in that Big 12 championship. And if they're playing Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship, I think they got to like their chances at getting into the playoff here. We were talking about this earlier before we started filming, kind of comparing them to Oregon. Kreitz, you were saying, what do you do with a one-loss Texas and a one-loss Oregon if they both win out?
That'll be tough.
It's tough. It's even right now, it's tough for me to even really say who. I think I said Texas earlier when we were talking. I think I lean that way still right now, but I mean, it would be tough, especially if Bo Nix, if he balls out again and keeps balling out and he ends up winning the Heisman, how do you not put the Heisman winner in the playoff?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no, this Texas game was a little bit different. I wouldn't take the 13 here just because now I'm skittish. I took the Iowa State 7.5, and honestly, it maybe should have covered, but this Texas game was different. They were driving for most of the first half. They kept turning the ball over.
Yeah.
They kept getting stuck. Yeah, they were getting in the red zone a lot and they were turning it over. It was different than the Texas that we had seen where they're just balling in the first half. Then they physically can't move in the second half and they're relying on their defense. Their defense just looked good through and through. And that's what it's looked like. And they're going to have to just continually lean on their defense. But the healthier that Quinn Ewers gets, and I know Jonathan Brooks is out, which is tough, but AD Mitchell's still a dog. And I like CJ Baxter.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's great.
Yeah. And so they
got depth for sure.
Well, we've said it every single week. They're not going to be able to decide their own destiny, which is tough, just because of how they have looked against the schedule that they've played, and their schedule isn't overly difficult. That Bama win is huge. It's massive. And I think they were praying that Oklahoma was going to look a little bit better and they were going to play them in the Big 12 championship game. That would have helped a lot. That would have been a big win. Because I disagree, Stu. I lean Oregon. If Oregon wins out, they've looked too good and their schedule has been too good. And that would include a win over Washington, where I would lean more Oregon in over Texas, despite the names, despite the brand, despite the name, I would kind of lean Oregon there. And so it's tougher for Texas than other teams just because of who they play. Do you disagree, Craig? You think it?
I mean, it's tough because they won on the road by 10 at Bama. It's like, you're going to discredit that. I know it's so early on. It's that to me, if that's the fourth spot, that'll be very interesting to see what way they go. And I hate to say it, you kind of just touched on it, Dak. Hate to say it, but it's all about money. I hate to be honest here. I think they'd probably they would, especially if they got a chance to play. Let's say Oklahoma State loses to BYU. Don't think it's going to happen at home. But if they get to a chance to redeem themselves against 13 Oklahoma, and just as Oregon does against Washington, and they still have that away win, against Bama, it's like, how can you not put that in? But the Texas name, it's a little more permanent than, the money is going to be better. I don't want to make football sound like that, but it's about viewership. It's why you guys don't think FSU, and I agree too. Well, if FSU, their resume does not speak for itself, but that's why we're even questioning if FSU is going to get into the playoffs if they're undefeated. The most there can be is only 4 teams aside from Liberty that would be undefeated. So, I would probably, maybe I'm a homer, maybe it's just me. I'm on, here in Austin. I'd go Texas just because they have a double-digit win against Bama. And if Bama beats Georgia, you cannot not keep – if they have a spot open for them and Bama goes and beats Georgia, then no, I don't even think it's a question because of how Bama's looked. Yeah.
If Washington wins, it's a moot point. It doesn't really matter. Washington's going to get in. They're going to be undefeated. But if Oregon goes ahead and they beat Washington – then all of a sudden Oregon has a win. We would assume Oregon has a win against a ranked Oregon State, which looks pretty good. They have a win against, granted, they did lose to Washington at one point, but they have a win against Washington, who would at the time be the number 4 team in the country, I would presume, as long as Washington takes care of business at this point. And Oregon has looked good throughout the rest of the season. If Bama goes ahead and they beat Georgia, you're saying, I guess, or Oregon wins the Pac-12, you're saying Texas goes in and they jump them. Maybe Bama jumps them as well, or maybe a one-loss Georgia stays ahead of them even if they lose to Bama. That's where it gets a little muddy. And I don't know. I just think it's
tough.
Oregon's proved themselves enough. And I know the brand is big, obviously. And
yeah, I don't want to make Texas, it all that, but I'm just saying,
I know, yeah. And I know Texas hasn't looked bad, but I feel like Oregon would have to get jumped by a couple of people in order to not get in if they do beat Washington. Yeah, I don't know.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Like you were saying, Dak, and how I was kind of saying on mine too. If Oregon wins out and if Bo Nix wins the Heisman, it's going to be tough to leave them out. But that Bama win, that's Texas's saving grace. So it's going to be a tough combo to have if that ends up being the case. I think Oregon, they have a lot more to prove, though. Texas kind of they control their own destiny and a little
Texas
bit more.
Currently, I know this. I don't know what Oregon's is, but Texas today, I looked at it, has the seventh ranked strength of schedule. I know Oregon's not that high. I know that for a fact. So it'll be different, obviously, if they play Oregon State and Washington too.
And Washington, yeah. Right.
Moving on, Florida State going down to the Swamp. Taking the Florida points here, 100%. I really am. I think this is a time to take it. I don't think Florida is a complete team, but I think it's a time to attack. Do they have 5 wins? I think they're trying to play for a bowl game. I believe it's at 5.
They have 5 or 6. I can't remember.
They have 5 or 6. Were they 5? I think they were 5-5 last week, and so they might be 5-6 now.
Yeah,
I think that's
I'm going to take Florida. I think they might win straight up.
Too.
And maybe FSU will, band together and win and do this for Travis. But I don't know, man. I said this last week before his leg snapped. I just think FSU is going to lose and they're going to be in the playoffs. I just don't feel like they're going to be in the playoffs. So I'm gonna take the points there, 6.5 at least.
I agree. I feel like FSU, and even before Jordan Travis got hurt, I think we all said it. We felt like FSU was going to drop one of these, whether it be to Florida or whether it was going to be to Louisville. I think it was going to happen regardless, just because of how they've looked. And it would get where things get really, really interesting. Of course, we already touched on it a little bit, is if FSU somehow does win out, even with their backup quarterback. They beat Louisville, they beat Florida on the road this week. That's where stuff gets dirty and it gets messy, because you're going to have a bunch of one-loss teams that are maybe more deserving, not just in terms of your starting quarterback and in terms of the state of your football team right now, but even straight to schedule. Like, I love LSU, but Florida State's win against LSU week 1 isn't uber impressive. Like, it's not a crazy win. Their win against Duke is not a great win anymore. It just isn't. A win against Louisville is a very nice win, but it's not going to be looked at the level as a win for Texas. Like, for Texas, a win against Alabama, or Washington and Oregon, a win against each other, Michigan, Ohio State, same sort of thing. So it's just going to be a super tough decision with where Florida State is at right now. But I feel like it never turns out that way. They're just, if I were to guess, they're going to lose. Some other one-loss teams are going to lose, and things will get a little bit easier. Maybe we're deciding between 2 teams, but we'll see. I feel bad for Florida State and Florida State fans. I hope to God they don't get in. I really do. Like, I hope they don't. I don't want to see it. Does anybody else?
Yeah. I think I'm not going to be surprised if Florida State, if they cover and end up winning in the Swamp this weekend at all. But something about the Gators, man, the Gators are feeling frisky to me this weekend. So I think I'm gonna pick the Gators to upset the Seminoles this weekend, just on a whim. But I think it'll be a good game. I think it's actually going to be like a pretty tight game. I think the adversity Florida State's facing right now, obviously a factor. I think if they're healthy, it's a different story. But yeah, no, I think it'll be a good game. And then so I believe we got Washington State next.
We can cook through it.
Yeah, cook through it. Washington taking on Wazoo. Wazoo out of the top 25. Washington's in the Pac-12 championship. You win, you still have totally playoff hopes at 4, moving up to 4 over FSU. The committee thinks it's better, and then they're going to get a chance, about 99% chance they're going to get another shot at Oregon. Honestly, I'm good on that. I like Michael Penix. I like what they're doing. We're pretty I'd like to see them in the playoffs. I think that'd be cool. That's a team I'd like to see in the playoffs. But who knows? I mean, if they lose, then they're out. That's how it is.
I'll say two things. First, I love Washington. Washington's kind of been my team the entire year, so I'm biased, but I would take Washington State points just because of how this year has gone.
Yeah.
So I think, dude, I think Washington has played somewhat of a tough schedule, and they're a little bit banged up, especially Michael Penix. I think they're going to take it a little bit light, which they can't afford to, but I think in the back of their minds, they might do it that way. You guys are going to hate this take. If you take out the names, so you erase Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, take out the names, take out the brands. Just look at the resumes, look at the schedule, look at who they played, how they played. Washington, I'm sorry, and they were never going to do it. Washington's sitting there at number 2. Like they've taken care of business for every ranked team that they've had to play. And Michigan, Ohio State right now, they don't have a bunch of super impressive wins. Have they looked better in some of their easier games? For sure. Washington obviously struggled against Stanford. I think they struggled against Arizona State. You do have to hold them against it. But they have gone, when they played Oregon, they went in, took care of business. They looked very good. Wire to wire, they were the better team. Oregon State, same business. Even though it was raining, wire to wire, even though it got close, they were the better team. Washington's schedule and how they have looked, I think it holds up. And me personally, they were never going to do it. I'd put them at 2 right now just because I want to get a little frisky.
I totally disagree, but that's all right.
I know you do.
There was a missed field goal by Oregon. Oregon could have won that game in Seattle.
Oregon could have won that game.
Yeah,
Oregon's in there. Oregon's in there at 6.
No,
that's better than Penn State. That's a better win than Penn State. You know,
no, for sure. But I mean, it was down to a field goal attempt.
That's the number 6 team in the country, and then Oregon State in the rain too. That's 2 big wins.
Okay, Michigan. You could debate Michigan. You got to give Ohio State a nod. They beat 2 decent, ranked opponents. Whatever. Go ahead.
I just don't love Notre Dame. I don't love Notre Dame, and
I don't either. But they're still at 18 today.
I know,
Dak,
but it's
you
2
got a
better
point,
wins.
but you got a point, Dak. But the fact of the matter is, Washington, they've had games where they look amazing this season.
I know.
They've had games where they look not amazing this season.
No, and I love Washington too. I do. But yeah, I agree.
And I just said I'm not even taking their points. So
that's it. No, yeah. And so
I'm taking Washington State's points. I want Washington to be ranked higher.
No.
I agree with you too on the Washington State points. I'm taking that as well. I think Washington, I think they're where they're supposed to be right now. Obviously, we had the whole debate whether we thought the Jordan Travis injury played a factor or not. Me personally, I am factoring that in my head when I'm weighing these teams in terms of where I think they're at right now. And so I would probably put Washington at 4, if I was doing my rankings. So I think they're where they're supposed to be. I think it's going to be a good game. I think Washington State, they can score points. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. Yeah. But I do think Washington State's probably going to win at the end.
I think to give credit to Washington, Dak, I said this last week. The only reason they weren't 4 even last week was they're just waiting for this Oregon State game where they're playing 11 at Oregon State. Yep. I would put them at 4 ahead of Florida State from a resume standpoint. I think I had them win the Pac-12 this year over USC. With USC. Screw USC. They suck. I mean,
they suck.
That's a grim scene.
So bad. It's so bad.
But we move on to the game. So, yeah, we got some Wolverine fans, one alumni, one soon-to-be alumni. Our good friend Gashy from back home. What up, Gash? How we doing?
Oh, living the dream, brother.
Hey, Poppy.
Love the background.
Yeah, I love little Poppy. Wolverines. And then Jake, Dakota's cousin, one of our the Rider crew. We appreciate you placing our bets while we're in Texas here and not in a state that is legal.
Meeting of the minds. The meeting of the minds.
Meeting of the minds. Soon to be alumni at U of M. So we got 2 true Wolverines on. So want to hear you guys' opinion about this big game we got on Saturday, fellas. But appreciate you being on. Jake, we'll start with you. What do we got? Michigan, Ohio State, 3.5. Michigan is favored there, 3.5. Obviously, noon kickoff, the game. Talk to me about it. Let's go. I want to hear it.
I mean, obviously, I got Michigan. I can't root against the boys ever, especially in that game. But I think this year it's a little different than usual. I mean, Ohio State's offense isn't as high powered as we've seen in the past. You look at them; they don't have a Stroud or a Justin Fields at quarterback. They have Kyle McCord, who
they have a Kyle.
Honestly, he's unproven. He's just not the guy that they've had in the past. And I think without Marvin Harrison, this could be a 2-loss team. So you see the offense coming in. I don't think it's even better than that Maryland offense that they went and played last week. Hot take.
Ooh.
Hot take.
That is a hot
Ooh,
take.
steaming hot.
That and this is the first game that Blake Corum will play against Ohio State where he is fully healthy. I expect a big day from him, a huge day. I'm talking 100, 150 yards, 2-3 touchdowns.
Okay.
And I mean,
2-3?
we've already played the best defense in our conference. I mean, Penn State's defense, especially against the run, stacks up much better than Ohio State's does. And I know it's a much improved defense.
That's facts.
But this Michigan team is better than it was last year
Mhm.
and much better than it was 2 years ago. Everything leans in the favor of Michigan except for one thing, and that's Jim Harbaugh not being on the sideline Saturday.
True.
I think Jim Harbaugh on the sideline Saturday, it would be a 14-point, maybe 21-point game. But on Saturday, no Harbaugh. I don't have all the trust in Moore quite yet.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. But it's going to be an interesting game. Obviously, it's in the big house, and it's going to be cold. And those Ohio State boys, they don't like coming in and playing in the cold. I think it's going to be like 30-something. We're going to run the football, and I think we've been showing that the past 2 weeks that we're not scared to go back to the run. JJ doesn't have to have a huge game. He really doesn't. He's going to have to make some plays, and he knows that he can make the plays, and I know he will make those plays. But he will not have to be the X factor in that game.
Are you concerned at all? So like I feel like the last 2 years, like you mentioned, Ohio State got into it was 2 games where they got dragged into. Michigan was just going to run the football, and Ohio State almost kind of tried to match them. Where I mean, last year with CJ Stroud's clearly very good.
Yes.
And they did not throw the football nearly enough. It almost felt stupid. Are you a tiny bit worried? I don't even know why I'm asking this, but are you a tiny bit worried that they're just going to be like, we'll go to Marvin Harrison the entire game and we're going to stack the box. JJ McCarthy has to throw. Like Roman Wilson has to have a big day. And we'll see what you can do. Because JJ, although has had a very nice year, the last couple of games has not looked great. They didn't throw a lot against Penn State.
Isn't he banged up? Isn't he's got something going on, right?
Apparently he's banged up. I don't know. Apparently he wasn't 100%.
Banged his knee.
I'm not that concerned about it. I think you double Marv. You have to make someone else beat you on that team.
Agreed.
If Stover goes off for 300 yards, so be it. You know that can happen as long as Marvin doesn't beat you. You are okay in that game, 100%.
All right, let's go to our good friend Gash here.
Good friend Gash, representing Big Blue out in Madison, Wisconsin, and Badger Country. Gash, talk to us. Come on, what are we thinking here?
Oh, I'm thinking a lot of things about this game.
Big thoughts.
No, I mean, I honestly, I don't know if I'm gonna have as crazy takes as Jake, but I also have Michigan in this game. The last
oh
two.
My God.
You all right there?
I was just surprised.
Oh wow.
I don't know why you're surprised, but anyways, yeah, I got Michigan in this game. I don't know. The last two years, Michigan has handedly beat them, especially last year at the Horseshoe. I don't know. On the other hand of Harbaugh not being there and that being a detriment to the team, I do think that Maryland game, whatever they call it, like a setup game or a sleeper game, I truly think it was something like that. I think the team, from my minimal knowledge of the team this year, I think that they're pretty riled up about Harbaugh being the suspension. I think the general energy of the Wolverines right now is to be a little bit feel like there's a chip on their shoulder kind of deal, or some whatever. Just feel like we're Michigan versus everybody kind of energy. So I feel like our team is going to be coming out hot. With that being said, last year Ohio State did come out pretty hot in that game. But then they cooled off. They didn't really have any offense second half, and then fourth quarter we buried them. So we'll see. I think Jake made a very good point. Blake Corum will be back. But with that being said, I think Donovan Edwards had 200-plus yards and 2 touchdowns, I want to say.
He's due. This year he's been he's so due.
So,
he's 200 yards on the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I understand that. I understand that he's not playing the way he did last year, but he may, we've got both those backs and things like that. And I don't know. I'm pretty confident that we're going to win. If I had to, I would bet the line.
Yeah.
Of course, Vegas makes it -3.5 to make it inconvenient for us to win by a field goal. But I would honestly take it -6.5 if it was there, Harbaugh or not. But yeah, that's my take.
I want to ask you guys this. I brought it up before. Do you think, and this is what I think. I think with Michigan, it's like big brand. We all been fans. Obviously, you guys went there, so you know what it is. Kind of, there's a nose in the air mentality U of M has. Let's call it how it is. But to me, the fact that now they're facing the adversity of not having Harbaugh and being like, even though Harbaugh calls them America's team, which is still bizarre to me. Bizarre guy. Let's call it.
Yeah.
But like,
the glasses have gotten crazier.
They
like the longer
crazier
he's been at Michigan, they've got way crazier.
Who are you to talk? You're literally wearing the glasses.
He's wearing his glasses.
No, he's got the like bubbly glasses. Like those suckers are an inch thick on the sides. Like his are nuts. Harbaugh's are great. All right, yeah. Mine are great.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I was just gonna say I think kind of Michigan needed some actual like fuel. Like they have had we're Michigan and we're gonna win the Big Ten and like all that stuff. But it's like, okay, we needed as Michigan fans, like Michigan, I feel like needed some fire under them, like to actually get like up for a game like this, especially like this year, and not just a game like this. Like this is a team, in my opinion, the way college football is. Obviously, you still got the Georgias, Bama still hangs in there alive, and you can talk about Washington, Oregon, whatever. Like this is a team that can win a title, in my opinion. And this year, I actually feel that they need something that juice, that Michigan versus everybody juice. I think is kind of what will push them to not just to beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten for the third year in a row, but to win a title. Do you guys see what I'm saying there? Or
no,
I totally agree with that. And I think this game will be obviously the true indicator of if we can pull that off. But I really think, if we win this game, I really have a better feeling. Like Craig's what you're saying about the playoffs. Like we'd be coming in and just. For one, everybody's saying, we have a little bit of that energy right now with everybody saying like we've had such an easy schedule, but I truly think that Michigan versus everybody thing is going to come out if we can beat Ohio State, kind of man down without Harbaugh. Also, with a plus, I think Stu said this a while back. I'm not on the podcast, but he told me this. He said it in our group chat, but Ryan Day will probably get fired.
If
we win. So that would be winning the battle and the war.
Yes.
Anyways, but yeah, so agreed, Craig. Sorry.
And I got one question for honestly all of us to hit real quick. I think we can start with Jake and then go to Gashi and then Kreitz and Dakota, obviously. But everyone in this chat right now on this podcast has been to a Michigan game growing up. So I think real quick we should all just hit our favorite Michigan game we've gone to. So I'm gonna start. Mine was, I believe it was 2015 or 2014. Kreitz, me and you, we went to that one game under the lights in the big house.
That is Northfleet.
And it's Northfleet.
Oh, dude,
all Navy.
Yep, all Navy.
That Penn State
dancing on the pump.
Yeah.
Yep. Fun. That was a really fun game. It was one of the few under the lights games because Michigan was so weird about under the lights games back in the day.
Yeah, that's good. I've got a couple. One was the last time that we played Notre Dame in the big house. Torrential downpour.
Oh.
Tons of fun. They were playing all the good songs, And I just remember
the bright side.
No, not that one. But that game was just a lot of fun to just kick the crap out of your rival in the rain, the way that we did. Shea Patterson running the offense.
Sorry.
And then obviously back in 2021, that Michigan Ohio State game,
right?
Snow coming down, just the everything just came together into one, man. I mean, 10 years of not being able to beat your rival, and then that happening, tears flowing down my face, rushing the field. That got on the big screen.
I know, Dak. We gotta tweet that picture out or Instagram or whatever.
That's what I got. Yeah, the University of Michigan legit tweeted a picture of me on the big screen. I had my feet out. I went. That's one of the craziest pictures. Like I have them myself. That's nuts.
That's just one of the most fun games I've ever been to.
That game was electric. That game was so fun, dude. Yeah, that was fun. And Jake and I, so we used to, I mean, for my 18 years where we were going to Michigan football games, Jake and I, we sat next, we tailgated every single one with our entire family, and we sat next to each other for almost every single game. We had one section where we'd squeeze like 6 or 7 of us in to these 4 seats because, well, we used to weigh like 100 pounds. And so there was just like a bunch of, it was like me, Jake, Jake's brother, Dylan, my cousin, Dylan, my older brother, Steven, our grandparents. And then like, we have some lifelong friends that sat there too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jeff and Dan, goated.
Jeff and Dan. Yeah.
Jeff and Dan. We've had their kids, Nick. Now Nick is awesome. But yeah, we used to just squeeze in there. Games were so fun. Those were the best, man.
Yeah.
That Ohio State game was electric.
Caught a couple punches to the face from Steven.
No, I remember 2011. So my favorite game was 2011, Michigan versus Notre Dame, very first night game. Denard Robinson, crazy comeback. To this day, that will be my favorite Michigan game of all time over the last Ohio State one. That one was awesome. My brother, I remember we were tailgating, and I had bad asthma as a kid. I had a crazy asthma attack. I caught a pick 6 to win a tailgate football game, and I couldn't breathe. And then we're at the game. My brother punched me straight in the chest. And I remember when they scored the game I couldn't breathe for a solid 30 minutes. But it was totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Walk-off asthma attack.
Walk-off asthma
your
attack.
favorite, buddy?
Gashi, what's your fave?
It's got to be the Michigan Ohio State 2021.
Yeah,
I went with my brother who also went to Michigan, and we unfortunately did not get to storm the field because we were so high up, and by that time there was a lot of old people leaving. But anyways, yeah.
A Michigan Stadium classic.
Yeah.
And you're going to the game this weekend, right, Gash?
I am. Jake, are you as well? Right?
Yes, I'll be there.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll be in the stadium at like 10:30, getting some good seats.
There we go. Love to see it.
Nice.
Yeah, the faithful. Yeah, mine would have been what year was it? Was it 13,
2011.
14? It was 11. God, that's sad.
11.
Yeah, 11.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years, like Jake said. 10 years. I went to the Michigan Ohio State game. It was Luke Fickell. It was right after Trussell, before Urban Meyer in Michigan. You know, I mean, as a kid, the only thing I wanted to do was beat Ohio State as a Michigan fan. And so I think they went 6-6 that year. It doesn't matter. It really did not matter. So
who caught the pick on Braxton to end it?
God,
it was number 5. Does anybody remember?
What was his name? He came in to talk to my class.
Are you serious?
After
Desmond Morgan. Was that?
No, it wasn't Desmond Morgan. It was cornerback number 5 caught the pick.
I'm forgetting the name, but yeah, that was my favorite one. They hadn't beat him in forever. Obviously, a decade comes by, and we're finally, beating them again. But yeah, that one for sure. When I was a kid, just to beat Ohio State was I never yelled that loud in my life. No way.
Stu, what's your favorite?
It's tough.
He said Penn State. Penn State.
Oh, Penn State. Yeah.
Under the lights. While we got Gash and Jake on, we were going to touch on, we're down to the last week, fellas. Would love to hear your Final Four for you two specifically. What do you think championship's going to be? Who's going to be your national champion? I think we'll just touch on our 4 as we're getting to that point. But you guys got a Final Four that you want to put out there?
Yeah, Gash, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Final Four in terms of like where I think the rankings will end up.
Yeah,
playoffs. I don't know. I think Michigan and Ohio. I think fully Michigan's going to win.
Yep.
So I think Michigan 2.
Okay.
Georgia Bama will be the SEC championship, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Georgia losing, even though I know Bama's kind of heating up a little bit. but I still would say Georgia. So Georgia 1.
We got, just for context here, Gash, we got Washington. They're playing Wazoo this weekend, but they're going to have to play against Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. FSU, undefeated, but they just lost, obviously, their quarterback. They got at Florida, and then they have to take on Louisville in the ACC championship. Oregon as well, taking on Oregon State at home this weekend. And Texas, Bama, and then Louisville, really the only teams left.
Wow.
There's a lot this year. I mean, that's what this episode's been. We're talking about realistically, there's 9 teams alive, which is crazy.
Who did Oregon State play last week?
They lost to Washington. Washington beat them on the road.
Yeah, in the rain.
Okay.
Impressive win.
Yeah, and then Oregon's playing them, and then Washington.
Yeah.
Yep.
To me, it looks like if Oregon or Washington wins out, I think that it's going to be hard to keep them out, especially undefeated Washington. Oregon obviously lost to Washington, but it's getting tough. I mean, this is tough.
Yeah. Sorry, my computer's fucked up.
I was wondering who it was.
It was me.
Messages.
No, you guys. It's funny. It'll actually be perfect for the podcast. I was streaming football, and Stream East wasn't working, so I used one of the other ones, and it definitely got viruses on my computer. So now it's like things are like popping up and like fake antivirus shit. Anyways, so I'm
soft porn.
Soft porn, hardcore porn. That's what we had last week. We had Stream East and just porn. Boobs. Yeah.
Okay. 3.
You like Louisville, right? You were telling me that.
No. I want to say gut feeling Washington.
Okay.
And then 4. I feel like one person's going to be like, hell yeah. And then the others are going to be like, come on. I think the way it could pan out just with the SEC championship and things, I could see Texas making the 4th spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that would be my, also, yeah, that'll be my 4.
You got Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Texas. Very, very possible. I agree.
All right, Jake, you're up.
That's buddy. That is also my 4.
Wow, in that order?
In that order. Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Texas.
I was going to say this. Well, yeah, I have same 4 as you two.
The 4 spot is the most interesting because I feel like all the other ones are going to get locked up in the conference championships. But if Florida State somehow wins out with their backup quarterback, whoever it is, they have to be in.
That's what I was saying earlier. We asked Dak and I have a debate.
So
Dak disagrees.
It's tough to keep them out.
No, I don't disagree. All right, continue, Jake. Yeah,
Dak hates a comeback story.
They have to be in, and
I do.
I think that it ends up being a Michigan-Georgia national championship, and as much as I hate to say it, I don't think anyone's beaten Georgia this year.
There you go.
Yeah,
I think they're 3-peating. Like it just seems like that. Earlier in the season, maybe, but they've gotten too tough.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I got the exact same 4 as you boys, number for number. I honestly do not know who I have winning it yet. That will be probably after this week. I'll have a better idea. I need to see how Michigan does against Ohio State still this weekend. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt right now and say they're going to win, end up at number 2. But like we were mentioning earlier, it's been a little bit shaky with Sharon Moore at the helm. So we'll see how it goes.
Shall I go?
Go ahead, Dak. Take the floor, bud.
All right, fine. So mine's a little bit different. I want to get a little grimy with it. I do think Michigan beats Ohio State. I don't think Ohio State's that good this year. We touched on it a little bit before too, where Michigan had the motivation. They hadn't beaten Ohio State in forever. They beat them at home. Hadn't beaten Ohio State and Columbus in forever. They took care of business. They were looking for something this year. They finally got it with the whole, Connor Stallions. You can talk about the thing that happened at Walmart as well. Whatever you want to talk about.
No. That's criminal.
All right. We won't touch on that. No, they got a little bit of motivation. So I think Michigan wins. SEC championship. All right.
Tomato.
Whoa, sure. Who cares? I think Bama's going to beat Georgia.
There you go.
I think it's going to happen. Georgia and Bama don't play a lot. When they do, Nick Saban still takes care of business. This Bama team is much different than what they were at the start of the year. Jalen Milroe is finally starting to do his thing. They're just letting him run the ball. He throws the ball when he has to, and he actually looks much better when he has to do that. Carson Beck has improved quite a lot, and so I got to give him. And they have Brock Bowers back, so Georgia's terrifying, of course. But Nick Saban versus Kirby Smart, I still like it. I thought last year that Alabama team could have taken care of business against that Georgia team. They lost on 2 last-second plays against LSU and against Tennessee, and then they all came back for the bowl game because they knew what they were going to do against Kansas State. So I like Alabama winning that SEC championship game. I'm not going to make things weird. I'm just going to say Florida State loses. I don't even want to talk about it. Okay, let's throw Florida State out of there. Where it gets tough is Washington and Oregon. Washington's my team, and I just stood on a table and I said maybe they should be number 2 in the country. I almost want to take Oregon to win that game, and Oregon to win out and Oregon to get in. It doesn't really matter. One of those 2 teams I think is going to win and get in, and that's where it gets super difficult. And you start talking about, is it a 1-loss Georgia or is it a 1-loss Texas who gets in? And that's where it gets super tough. Texas, I think, oh man, because you have to talk about the head-to-head. So if I'm
Tuscaloosa.
And what the committee is going to do is they're going to put Texas in there at the 4 seed. I think they'll let Bama jump, and they'll put Bama at the 3 seed. They'll put Washington/Oregon there at the 2 seed, and then they'll put Michigan.
But you're going Washington. We need a concrete.
Wait, so
all right. I'll go. I'm gonna go.
Michigan's your 1.
Michigan's my 1. I think Georgia's going to lose to Bama.
Okay.
I think as long as Michigan takes care of business against Ohio State, that team is my 1. We're going to go Michigan at my 1. I'll make a hard statement. Fine. I will say Washington is in there at 2. I say Bama wins. They're not going to put Bama at 4. I think they've done that in the past. They just let the winner of that SEC championship game jump to 3, more of a matchup thing. I think they're going to let them jump. They'll go to 3. We'll say Texas wins out. We'll put Texas at 4, but I want to put Georgia in there at 4.
Yeah. That Michigan-Texas game brings ratings, though.
I know. No, I know. And well, I'm just trying to decide in my head. I'm trying to battle back and forth if Texas is going to lose a game or not. All right, yeah. You know what? Guns to my head. We're going Michigan at 1. We're going Washington at 2. I'm going to be so off here. This is terrible. Michigan 1, Washington 2, Bama 3, Georgia 4. And we're going Michigan versus Georgia, and then Bama versus Washington. We'll see how it plays out, but it's going to get I know that, and it's a terrible. We're going to have to cut all of this. I'm going to change it next week, okay? So that's fine. But I just don't know if Texas is going to win out or not. But I feel confident in Bama. I do, and I feel confident in Michigan, and I feel 50-50 on the rest.
Okay. I'm going to be a little different than everybody here. I'm going to go with Georgia wins out. I think they're going to beat Bama. It's going to be close, but I got Georgia at the 1 seed. We got Michigan beating Ohio State and beating Iowa. They're my 2 seed. I think Oregon at this point in time, I'm actually going to take to beat Washington. I think they should have and could have beat Washington in Seattle there. That's, like I said, it was just a field goal away. I like the way that Bo Nix is playing. And so I'm going to go Oregon wins that. They're going to get the 4, and I think Texas wins out, and that Bama win against them, even though they lose to Bama loses to Georgia. I still think Texas, whether they play Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, I kind of want to see them play Oklahoma and avenge their loss. So if Oklahoma State loses to BYU, it's at home in Stillwater. I just don't see that happening. I'm going to go with Texas at 3. They win out with that Bama win, getting them up to 3, and Oregon Ducks at 4. So I got Michigan, Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Oregon. So Georgia will play Oregon. Georgia wins that. Michigan, Texas. I got Michigan. So it's a Georgia Michigan matchup. If I had to pick, gun to my head, I'm going Georgia as well. But I think Michigan could actually win this year. But if I had a gun to my head, I'm going Georgia. That's my pick.
I like those matchups too. Georgia, Oregon, and then Michigan, Texas.
Yeah, Dan Lanning gets another shot at that. I just don't think he's going to get it. So, well, hey guys, it's been a hell of an episode. I appreciate you, Gash and Jake. Thank you, Wolverines. They cheer on the Big Blue this weekend. I'll be back at home. We'll celebrate.
Hey, wait. Final scores. Call it.
Okay,
Jake,
let's do
Gashy,
it.
final scores.
Okay.
What's your score?
I'm gonna go 23-19. No, 23-17 Michigan.
Okay.
I've got 35-23 Michigan.
Okay. 35-23. Stu, you want it?
Stu, take it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Damn. Okay, so I actually think it could end up being a pretty low-scoring game and more of a defensive game than it normally ends up being. But I think for my prediction for the score right here, I'm going to go with what it's trended to be in recent years, similar to. And I'm going to say 42-24 Michigan.
Wow. Okay, hitting the over.
Blow out in the big house.
I'm going – I think it's going to be like a 14-13 most of the game. And then we get some weird stuff, 2-point conversions. Michigan ends up scoring late, how they have done recently to win it, 28-19.
Okay. I'm going to go with 31 Michigan. I'm going with 27. We'll go 27 Buckeyes. 31.
Okay. Higher scoring.
Michigan beats the Buckeyes and covers by a half point.
I like it.
Oh, yeah, boys.
Good stuff, fellas. yeah. Good
boys coming
stuff.
on.
Yeah, it was fun, man.
Yep.
This reminds me of D&D.
Yeah.
We got to run it back.
All right, I gotta go to bed, boys. Good night.
All right, guys.
Appreciate
it. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate you guys.
Yep, thank you, boys.
How do I get out of this?
I don't know.
Well, there they go. All right, guys. Hell of an episode. We will see. If we're all wrong, we're all right about Michigan, Ohio State. Hey, we could all be wrong here. So, but I think it'll be a hell of a game. Excited. We'll be celebrating Stu back home.
Let's hit our picks real quick. And
we got to do our picks.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
So
you guys start. I got to look at my lines here.
We got So we got the luck of the draw here for who's going first to review. All right, we got Dak first. Let me get that banner.
Okay. Oh, I had something I wanted to hit on. Okay, so I went Georgia 9.5 last week. Loved that. That was an easy money one. Iowa State plus 7.5. That should have hit. Whatever. You win some, you lose some. Washington. I loved that pick through and through. Took a money line. So feel good about last week. 2-1. This week, we didn't touch on it. We touched on we didn't talk about the Egg Bowl at all. I don't know why. That's very disrespectful. It's a New Year Thanksgiving Day game. That's not even my pick, though. I don't know why I brought it up. So I think my pick is going to be on Friday, 3 o'clock CBS. We're going to go Mizzou, minus 7.5. Sorry, something's playing on my headphones. This is messed up. It started blasting an ad in my headphones. We're going to go Mizzou, minus 7.5 against Arkansas on Friday. That's going to be my pick.
Go Mizzou? All right.
I'm going Mizzou. Why not?
I like it. No, I like it. The Tigers I feel like they've been trustworthy. All right, so we got mine next. I did not hit Michigan. Louisville, we got Oregon State. Did not get that one. So I actually only got one this week. I did not go 2-1, did not go 2-1, went 1-2. This week, I think I'm going to go with Arizona, boys. I think I'm going to go Arizona 10.5.
I like it.
Arizona State. So I think that's what I'm rolling with for this week.
Okay.
Price, we got yours.
Yeah, I took Kansas when we were on the show, so I'll just say 2 out of 4, I guess. I don't know. Northwestern, they won straight up. I think I think West Virginia, didn't they win? I'm pretty sure. Let me look actually.
Westlaw?
I did not know, to be honest with you.
I think they did. Hold on, let me look here. Sorry, guys. A little delay here. I think they won. So I did go. I went. Air Force did not win. So for those picks, I went 2 out of 3. Air Force ended up losing, I believe. I got to look it up. But West Virginia did win straight up by a lot. Yeah, they lost to UNLV in a tough one, both 8-2, referring to Air Force and UNLV. on the road. UNLV wins there, and I believe Colorado Springs, 31-27. So it was, obviously did not hit there because they were favored, but Kansas did hit for what I called there. But yeah, I went 2 for 3 on these picks specifically. My pick for this week, I'm gonna go with man, this is tough. I have a few.
It's really tough, yeah.
I think I'm gonna ride.
A lot of nice ones this week.
There is a lot of nice ones this week, but even though I don't think they're 22 worthy, I'm going to go with North Carolina State getting the money at home plus 2.5 against North Carolina. North Carolina's good. Drake May pack him up, get him ready for the draft. I'm sure he'll play, but I just think we've called it out. I think North Carolina's pretty fraudulent. I'll take the points at home. North Carolina State, Wolfpack, go.
I like that one.
There it is. That is our calls, and then we'll have other calls as well that we'll tweet out. But yeah, guys. Hell of an episode. Appreciate our good friends.
Dak's dog. Come on.
Oh,
man.
I'm sorry, Dak. I'm so sorry. How could I forget?
Come on.
All right, Dak. Do you wanna give the intro, and then I will throw up our winner of this week's Dak's dog as you're describing their performance.
Sure, yeah. So this one was tough, and I want to give some honorable mentions for this week's Dak's dog because there were some great performances across college football, but nothing that Uba stood out. And so I was at Bo Nix throwing for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns in one half. Incredible. But it was against Arizona State. Not a whole lot you can say there. Dog performance, superstar performance, but I don't know about a dog performance. Also, the wide receiver from James Madison University, I think it's his Elijah Surratt.
Number 13.
His name.
That's all I remember.
Number 13. Yeah, so we caught like a 35-yarder to save the game. I think I was on 4th down. And then caught a toe tap touchdown right after that to score a touchdown and make it a 2-point game. They caught the 2-point conversion, pie line 2-point conversion, all 3 right in a row, pretty much to save the game. If they would have won the game, that's Dak's dog. They lost the game. A Dak's dog would have gone and done something in overtime. So I just can't do it. This week's Dak's dog, Washington's wide receiver Odunze, 7 for 106, 2 touchdowns in the rain too. Stu's out. All right, he must have froze. I didn't realize. That's no worries at all. We'll wait for him, and then we'll throw the graphic back up.
We're back.
All right. Got through. Yeah, got through most of it. No worries. Throw up the Odunze. Throw up the graphic. There it is. 7 for 106, 2 touchdowns. Washington had a gritty game against Oregon State on the road in the rain. Looked better in the first half. Michael Penix, I think, was like 3 for 28. But he caught, I think, the 2 early touchdowns, which really, I don't want to say solidified the game, but set the tone for the game. And then he caught the game-winning third down pass, which was an awesome throw, but an incredible catch by him. Ballsy play call on 3rd down. I think Oregon State still had a timeout left, and so you're kind of saving that. Huge game for him, one that they needed. They leaned on him the entire game. That's a dog right there. That's Dak's dog.
There we go. Love it.
Yeah.
Guys, let's have a hell of a week. Let's enjoy some football. Go Lions, number 1 against Green Bay. 8-2 for the first time since 1962. Just got to put that out there. Shout out our Lions.
Yeah.
Go Blue and go LSU against Texas A&M. Would love to see A&M lose. I almost wanted to take the 11 there. You know what? Can I switch, boys?
I thought about it.
Can I get my 11 against Texas A&M?
You could switch. I thought about switching and going BYU, but they're on my no bet.
That's fair, and that makes sense, Dak. I'm going to switch to LSU minus 11 in Baton Rouge.
I love it. Baton Rouge.
End it with LSU. Let's end it with them minus 11. I'm switching from North Carolina State. I don't know enough about the Wolfpack. I'm going to be honest with you. Not a lot of ACC football being watched over here. So I'm going to go with LSU minus 11 against A&M, the Aggies. But hell of an episode. Shout out Jake. Shout out Gash. You're good friends. The Big Blue boys. And let's go Blue, fellas. Dak, can we get a go Blue out of you?
Yeah, I'll give you go Blue. Yeah. I guess Ohio State all day. Yeah, all day. No Ohio State, no Ryan Day.
No Ohio. No Ohio. I don't like anything about Ohio.
Get him out of there.
Mm-hmm.
No mas.
No anything Ohio. Nothing Ohio.
I'll give you a go Blue all day. I'll give you a go Blue all weekend. After they win, I'll give you a go Blue next week.
Fair enough.
And then you'll give us a Who Day on Sunday, right?
No Joe Burrow. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen.
All right, I'm going to bounce.
He's out.
Yeah, I'll see you.
Obviously, last episode, I do want to make a note here. We never got introduced, and it's our fault, Stu's and I's fault, to your friend that you tried to introduce us to. So
I didn't come up with a name yet. I was gonna intro. What you know? What next episode? At the start of the episode, I'll intro. I was gonna do it at the start of this one. I got to come up with some sort of name.
Yeah, you do.
Felicia.
Felicia.
Naming a voice.
Not Felicia.
I don't know. Okay.
A voice.
Naming a voice.
Okay. Yeah. We'll come up with a good name. I'll intro her next episode. She's kind of just a bystander right now, but she'll have her own segment next week.
Good.
How about that?
Good. We love it.
Like one of these. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. We can end on that. All right.
That's all right. Hey, all episode. We'll see you next week, guys.